What about standardisation? I mean, it seems to me what you're saying is the set-top box maker is going to have a very difficult job of predicting in which direction he should take his business, and maybe have to take it in lots of different directions at the same time to cover all the bases. But that, of course, has a tremendous cost trade-off. One thing that's really going to not help with that is a lack of standards. I mean, how big an issue do you see that, Steve?
Well, I think that we're seeing a lot of standards emerge, maybe not a comprehensive set, but IP as a standard for distribution of video around the home is basically de facto there, right? And we're seeing standardized codecs, we're seeing standardized file formats, we're seeing standardized protocols, things like that, all built on IP that actually helps to generate the home ecosystem, the domain of the consumer that we're now talking about. We're not talking about a single set-top box, we're talking about a household and how to support all members of that household. So standards are being built on IP rather differently from the way they were built on DVB, for instance, for the broadcast world. And the set isn't complete, but I think we're seeing exactly how that kind of world is going to turn out, incorporating the PC, the mobile phone, the games console, and the set-top box in some kind of homogeneous kind of environment that makes sense for the consumer. I mean, we tend to think of this as a technology-focused debate, but really it's about what the consumer expects, how to navigate this very competitive environment, increasingly competitive environment between different pay TV operators and indeed over-the-top services now. But what the consumer is going to look for is transparency of content availability across these different devices. The set-top box has to play its role in that, and I think standards based on IP, fundamentally software-based standards, are going to be the predominant driver.
Jason, I mean, the problem with anything is too many standards. Is the ubiquity of IP, a good thing or a bad thing? I mean, does IP by itself mean compatibility? I mean, not really.
No, I think as you mentioned that there are too many standards at the moment. I think fundamentally standards for the underlying technology, how you do the streaming, what video formats you use, they're there today, they're in use, there's no issue there. It's the encompassing standard to put together an equivalent of DVB, if you like, for the IP world. Yes, there are various efforts, Open IP TV Forum, DVB IPI, but it really needs someone strong enough to actually, push that to a conclusion in the market space.
Which is likely to, in the end, be one of the major pay TV operators when they decide they want to begin to deliver on IP.
Possibly. I think with the pay TV operators, because of their vertical structures, they can deploy their own standard. It may be based on the same things under the hood, but they can deploy that fairly quickly in terms. They're not so limited on the standard side of things. I mean, you see the BBC are making some moves in the horizontal space with their canvas, which there's a few details coming to the forefront. But I think to have a worldwide IP standard, I don't think there's really so many technological limitations now. I think DRM's a trickier part of that. But I think it really needs a consensus somehow to come together and someone to drive that.
Both Janelle and Jason have mentioned DRM and the possibility of standards. Is that something that a CA provider likes or dislikes? I mean, does standardization in encryption or DRM not imply a lack of security?
No, we like standards, at least at Conex. I mean, we can see what the standards actually have done for the DVB market by driving the prices down to have a healthy competition here. Of course, there are challenges in the DRM domain, but things are happening more healthy when it is following standards. So we are very favoring standards, both in the IP side, which I personally believe are suffering of the lack of standards because these projects are now so expensive to start on, to get going, that the small operators, they are not really able to do them because it's almost tailor-made every time. Well, we see the DVB side, it's now bam, 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 everything is there.